I'm Roger Nick. I'm the founder of the Golf Performance Center and Golf Performance Center Academy, along with Player Development Solutions and Index, which is a company that allows us to measure player development.
I'm John Boykin. I'm a PGA of America Life member, and I'm the senior PGA professional for Clip. Roger, how important is collecting data, stats for a junior player who wants to play college golf?
Well, John, that's a great question. We've been collecting stats and data on players for a long time now. I've been doing this for about 25 years, 30 years working with junior golfers, but it has been an essential part of what we do in collecting information on players to really help them understand where their game is. So as it relates to the college golf landscape now, it's so advanced, or it's getting to a point where how do you separate yourself with other recruited players? And I think college coaches are now starting to understand that it's a little bit of the minutia now that separates some of these great players that's coming out of the high school game or the junior game. That data is so important to be able to help let coaches know where are your skill sets, what's your physical skills, what's your mental skills. And how does that relate to your scoring skills on the golf course, right? So I think, being able to collect data on players like that has been tremendously helpful in the relationships with the college coaches recruiting you.
What percentage of junior golfers that come into your very successful and well-known academy, what percentage of those are collecting data when they first come to you?
Again, another really good question. So when they first come to us, it depends, right? It depends on what their background is, whether they played some competitive golf or not. Most of the kids that coming to us have started collecting some data. I wouldn't say all of them. I would say about 40% have started doing some just greens and putts and things like that, but not really strokes gained, or they haven't really gotten into the nitty gritty, if you will, but they're just starting to learn.
So again, by reputation, you were one of the best known in the country amongst PGA professionals in developing young players and helping them begin their journey of their goal to play college golf. Please share your experience and about how collecting and sharing elite juniors data has impacted that journey to college golf.
Yeah, no, that has been a big part of what we do. And I would say recognizing many years ago, about 20 years ago, I started what I call Player Development Index, which is collecting data, what we call lead factor data, which is where are the players' skill sets, where when they come in, do they actually know where they are, where are their mental skills, where are their physical skills, and what are their golf performance skills on the golf course? Can they score in tournaments? So we've been collecting data like that for a long, long time. Now, combine that with what we're doing with Clipped and actually adding the what we call lag factor data, which is what are your stats of what you've done, not why you've done it, but what have you done on the golf course. It's been so important to us to build the practice plans and continue helping those players. We call it close the gap on the skill challenge ratio of understanding where you start and where you are as a player to what you actually, how you score and what are the ramifications or what kind of outcomes you may have, because golf is hard, right? I think one of the things that people don't realize, golf is a very hard game, and you're never playing the same shots twice, and the conditions and the feelings you have, sensations you have. So it's very, very difficult for people to realize sometimes in the moment how they were feeling, what skills do they have, and actually did they hit the quality shot they were looking for. So collecting that information and being able to go back with the player and identify some of these markers, it really helps in their overall development.
Well, you just touched on it briefly, but one of the goals of Clip and using Clip as an instructor is helping with time efficiency. We all know that these young people, they go to school, they work on their golf game, they have family obligations. How has having and using your junior students' data helped shape time efficiency with practice, knowing what to work on, which is a big part of Clip?
Yeah, no, it's been tremendously helpful to go out. I'll give you an example. So, a lot of times we talk about scoring and how important putting is, right? And, it's always important to work on putting. It's always important to work on ball control. But in fact, one of the things we'll ask our players is, distance control. So that's a question in our kind of after action report for playing tournaments is, okay, how did you do with your distance control? More specifically, how did you do with 10 feet and in? And so when they start tracking that and they see that in their app, when they do use the Clipped app, now they start to actually hone in on, I don't really have distance control issues at 30 feet, but really 10 feet and in, I'm not getting the ball to the hole 90% of the time. Why am I not doing that? And obviously that helps us identify a more specific area of the putting to work on. So that's been really helpful. So when these players are going, hey, I want to work on putting, now we can say, well, let's work on this area of your putting because your putting actually skills are good. You just don't know and haven't recognized you're not hitting and making those 10 footers or inside of 10 feet, you're leaving everything short. And so we start to identify that as a really good area for them to work on and be efficient with their practices.
Can you talk about an example of how Clipped, in combination with your techniques as a coach, has helped a specific player that you've worked with?
Oh yeah, I have a player right now who happens to be playing in college. He came into us as a kid who never kept really any stats, never really didn't pay much attention to really anything. I would say he was almost a novice competitive player. But as we started, collecting his data and Clipped, and him recognizing that he has some skill proficiencies, he really wasn't, getting the best out of his game because he actually wasn't understanding why some of those other skills weren't getting better. So when we run what we call our player development index assessment with him, we start understanding the why those marks are good and then why those marks are maybe not as good as he'd like them to be. So then we can actually, plan his practices around that. So this young man, used this, religiously for the last 3.5 years in our program. And he went from a kid who's shooting in the mid 90s to a kid right now he was an All-American his freshman year in college. So we see how important it is to actually not only collect what we call the clip lag data, right? But understanding your skills in the lead factor with PDI. So the combination of both of those two tools have been, tremendously helpful in this young man's life.
Do you find that your players find it's easy to capture their round and practice data using Clip?
Yeah, it's been extremely easy for us. I mean, again, we're, probably much like a college environment. I mean, our high school environment and our academy environment is very similar. Obviously, we're trying to prep them for that next level. So it is a requirement after every practice that we sit down and we go through what we would call an after action report and go and collect and get their information. So it's really fresh in their mind. It's part of their routine now. So it's a post round routine. So it's become very easy. The tool is easy to use. You pull it up, go right in it, plug in your data. It's been tremendously helpful for those guys. And it's easy to use.
Roger, let's talk about recruiting. What's been your experience when a junior golfer is able to share their data, hopefully using a Clipped account, with a college coach during the recruitment process?
Yeah, one of the things, John, that we have also is what we call our Junior Golf Hub. And this is a profile where all of our players put all of their information, all their data into this, profile, if you will, similar to what you have on the Clip. But we actually pull that data into our profile and we share it with coaches, and coaches all the time come back and go, this is amazing. They see what they're doing in practices. They see how they're actually capturing this information in Clipped and seeing this quality shot gain. And so from a standpoint of if they're using Clipped, it's a no-brainer. These coaches start to recognize that, man, this kid who's a developing kid is already doing stuff that their players in college are doing. So it makes it so much easier for this college coach to recognize that he doesn't have to worry about this player practicing, doesn't have to worry about him practicing on the wrong things. He knows what's expected of him. So as a recruiting tool, it's been amazing. Coaches have been, touting how much they like when they have this full package coming to them because they don't have to go search for a lot of information.
So lastly, what impact has having your juniors, because you developed a lot of this, as you call them, benchmarks, that you developed a lot of these. What impact is having juniors collect their data and use that in your teaching business? How's that impact the growth of your teaching and coaching business?
It's had a tremendous growth. I mean, the best thing that we can do is, I know it's very difficult for a lot of us in the PGA and in working at clubs and working with junior golfers and golfers in general, but then being able to have a quantitative way to say, we've benchmarked where you've come in with us. We can track your progress. We can show you how you've improved. In that way, in that regard, we always say we're 100% successful. And the player can't deny and they recognize it. Boy, you're holding us accountable to what we came in and told you we want to do. So the impact there is we have a high level of retention of our players, and our players have a high level of getting improvement. So, we see that improvement all the time. So when it comes to impacting our business, I mean, people come in and go, hey, I want to go through this process with you guys because I know you're tracking and you're holding me accountable. So it's been tremendously helpful for us to have Clipped and have our systems, our PDI systems, our hub, because they can't hide from it. So, in all of that stuff, and as you know, John, as a business professional, is when you can start to quantify, that improvement level, you can, there's the opportunity to charge more. There's the opportunity to have your book, supply and demand. So when you start getting demand of what you're doing, you can charge more if you'd like to charge more, or you can keep a waiting list or whatever you want to do. So that's been really helpful for us, and our business has grown tremendously since using the tools.
Thank you, Roger Knick.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I love being involved.